Guys, what's going on? My name is Adam Everett Miller, and this is AE Tuts Plus. I hope you guys are excited and ready for another fun idea that you could maybe use with your text. This is what we're going to be creating today. Stellar. Now, I know it's not even Halloween. I mean, it's not even close to Halloween, but what we got is we got some kind of spirity looking text reveal that happens from these little, it looks like a ghost wisp coming down or something, and then here a little bit later we got these some shutter action happening as the text kind of gets stretched out and with the lower pass. It's interesting. But yeah, my fiance is graduating college tomorrow, and then I'm gonna be getting married in about a month. So life's pretty good right now, and I'm just in a good mood. So let's begin. All right. Well, first off, let's start. You can create whatever text you want. If you want to write Adam is cool, you can do that, but let's not write that. You write whatever text you want, or you can simply just insert. If you have a layer, this would work as well. So I'm just going to use the AE Tuts logo, and let's scale it down so that we have a good place to start. And right off the bat, let's just go ahead and pre-compose this by going to Layer, Pre-compose, or hitting Control-Shift-C, which would pre-compose it. Let's move all attributes into the new comp, and we will call this Words. All right. The effect we're going to be applying to this is called Smear. I already have it brought up here. You just type in Smear, and as an example here, let me just show you. I already have it applied to this checkerboard, right? So what Smear is let's see, bring it over here. You have a from point and you have a to point. And so when I first applied this, I was thinking this is going to be more like a liquefy, and liquefy is another text that effect that you can use. But what Smear does is it takes the pixels from one point and it stretches them to another point. And don't get confused. At first I thought it would be a liquefy, which would be more simulating like you know, if you were to run your finger through some peanut butter or something like that, where it would leave a trail and just kind of push all the pixels out of the way. What this is actually doing is it's more like a rubber band, that it's taking the pixels from this little place right here and actually stretching them. The farther that you go, the further it's going to stretch, and this information is actually coming from that area. It's not just pushing stuff out of the way and leaving a trail. It's actually dragging it all the way over there. So it's a little bit more elasticy. And you can expand the reach or take the reach down, and then obviously the radius you can increase or decrease. It's actually kind of interesting if you look and see what shape it's creating. It's not fully a square, but it's also not really a circle. It's kind of flattened on the edges there. A little bit of a different kind of a shape that this effect creates. Okay, so that is the effect, and we will get rid of that comp because it was just an example. Well, let's go ahead and apply it. Keep in mind, it's not Smear. That's its own thing. We're applying CC Smear. So let's apply that to the comp. And we have our 2 points right here, to and from. And so right off the bat, we're gonna set a keyframe right away, from and to. Okay, let's take point 1, and you can see, oh, it's stretching. Okay, let's take this guy and drag it out of the comp. Okay, and we want to keyframe the positions relatively around here. Okay, so let's hit U to bring up the keyframes. Let's move forward about 2 seconds, and we'll start to drag this down. Well, as we can see, what's happening is it's sucking it, being that this is the endpoint, it's sucking it out of the composition. But what's going to end up happening is it's going to come back down because the radius is only that wide, if that makes sense. So it's going to suck up, but it's going to suck back down as well. Well, we want to only have it suck up. Well, I guess when the text comes in, we only want to have it suck down. I could probably use some better terminology, I don't know. But so first off, let's take it. We have our first place. Let's go here. Let's bring that guy there, and then let's bring that guy down here. All right, so then taking a look to see what it creates. Okay. Oh, and we probably want to drag that out in between so that it makes sure that we stay. Okay. And don't be looking at how it gets sucked away, because remember, this is the text coming on, so look at the second part of it returning and see how it returns, and let's see if we like the way that it returns. Kind of returns on just like that. Okay, that looks kind of cool, kind of sucking on and then just stretching back into place. Let's go ahead for this last one. Actually, I'm going to bring this up a hair and then bring this down a little bit more. Oopsie. just because I want to create more of a, I want it to be coming from up here a little bit more. So yeah, that's better. And good. Oh, and I need to make sure that I take this guy and pull it back a little further. All right. Well, we have that. Now what we need to do is we need to get rid of this first part when it's sucking up, because we just want to see it coming into play. So what we're going to do is we're just going to simply apply a mask. Let's, yeah, a rectangle works. Oops, not a shape layer. And let's go ahead and just draw a mask to reveal. Not a shape layer. I'm sorry. I have to select the layer, then do it, then apply. Awesome. Okay, and now we can see what's happening. Initially, we want to take this guy and move it far, far back. Okay, so just to completely get rid of it. You might be tempted to be masking up here, but all that this is generating a result from this. I mean, if we take off CC smear, you're only dealing with this. So this is all that you really need to mask. You don't need to be masking in the actual wave as it comes in, or the elastic spirit bands or whatever as they come in. All that we really need to be masking is this chunk down here. And as we do that, that will eliminate or show what happens up here. So let's completely reveal it for the time being, and then we will see what happens. Do we want to pre-compose this? No, we're good. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sitting here confused. We have to actually turn the effect on. Okay, so right off the bat, we don't want to show any of this yet. Until we wait until it would be returning, which it's still not yet. Oh, I mean it is. Okay, so we wait until it starts returning, which is right about there, and we will drag it to eliminate everything before that. Okay, and then we will go ahead and hit M, and we'll set the mask path, move it forward a little ways, and then continue. Oopsie, just selecting the one side. We'll continue to open it up, but then as soon as we see it coming in on this side, let's back it up because we don't want that. We want it just coming in. So let's set it forward there, and we want to just kind of go through and continue to do this. And look for it. Nope, we don't want anything there. Okay, and finish it out with that. Okay, and then we're gonna have to go back really quick and do some tweaking if there's any spots where it overlaps. Well, that's looking pretty good right there. All right, so now we have, oh, and of course beforehand, let's make sure that just before this comes on, this mask is just non-existent. Like, we'll just completely get it out of the picture. And so now we have a pretty nice looking little streak coming on where it reveals this text. Okay, well, to that's good. And what I had done is I had moved it from one side to the other, so we take the position of this, and even though it is a solid object, you're dealing with, you know, a solid layer and that's masked. You can we can adjust the position. So let's take a look at it. When it all reveals itself right there, we can set a position keyframe, move it across. This is just to directly emulate what I had done before. Holding shift to make it pretty exact, we can bring it over to this point. So then it's going to suck on and then move over, and then later we'll do the same thing on the back side and have it suck off. Gotta use a different word than suck off. That just doesn't sound very nice. Okay, so we got that. Well, at this point, let's go ahead and apply another little guy, which is going to be mesh warp. Okay, it's under distort, mesh warp. That's what we want to do, because right now we have some pretty solid strings of text coming in here, and so what we want to do is we want to kind of distort these a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and notice if I apply it, since I drew a mask, it's only going to be applying to there. So let's go ahead and pre-compose this yet again, moving all attributes, and we'll just say words to, call it whatever you want. So now we're applying mesh warp to the composition in its entirety. All right. Mesh warp. To explain this, Andrew Kramer does a pretty good job explaining this on his soul removal tutorial, and it's a similar sort of a thing. But what this is you can distort. You know, you're dealing in a grid here, and you can distort any of anything. The one thing to keep in mind here is when you select an intersection, that is only going to affect this area around within the square. I can do anything that I want to. I can drag it way out here or do anything, but when it hits one of these outside lines, it's gonna go exactly back to normal. So it doesn't matter what you do in here. It's only going to affect the information in this outer square, okay? And let me go ahead and reset that. And that applies to anything. So if I'm working on this intersection, it affects these 4 squares. If I'm working on this intersection, it's these 4 squares. So that's something to keep in mind, that we want to kind of shift them all around and move them a little bit. Well, rows and columns, just to explain mesh warper a little bit, you can decrease the mesh. You can bring it all the way up to 31 was the max. And you'd think, oh, cool, well, the more that you can distort, the better. Well, not really, because the more that means the more you have, you know, the more little boxes you're dealing with, and that means that you'd have to really go through and spend a lot of time. So you have to find the balance between, you know, obviously you don't want to just have like 3 for each one, because then that's gonna, you know, that's not going to be enough to clearly, that's going to mess up too much. But at the same time, you also don't want to have 20 of them, because that's going to be too difficult. You'd have to go through and keyframe each one. So let's go ahead and right when it first gets started here, let's set an initial one. The quality you can adjust. I don't know. I haven't played with that too much. But then the distortion mesh, and that's just at this moment all of the grid is intact. As we move forward, we can move move that forward, and it'll move with it. Okay, sweet. So resetting it, bring it back to the beginning. Let's go through and distort a little bit. Let me get rid of my keyframes for the moment. Okay, and bring them back. Okay, so initially, let's go ahead and bring that guy there. Let's suck this guy up here a little bit, and let's bring that guy down there. Okay, how does that look? Pretty cool. And you're gonna notice there's gonna be, you know, you're gonna have some funky edges just because you're dealing with squares. But you know, the best thing you can do is just work around it and try to, you know, try to avoid having it look too, you know, having the edges be too hard. And then obviously it's moving kind of out of this mesh, so we can reset it, which is going to set another keyframe, and then continue here. And if you are running into some funky issues, you can select it and you can bend these curves to match your needs as you see fit. So let's just keep going and keep distorting this, moving it forward a little bit more as it comes down here. I'm just going to reset to get rid of these guys and continue up. And let's go ahead and move that around. Okay, and all right, we'll move that. I'll move that up, and then a little bit further. Let's reset it once more and then finish it out. Just to like right there, and there. Okay, so now we should have kind of a funky wisp, and let's just try to get rid of as many of these in between offset times. You just don't want it to look straight. You want it to look kind of distorted, not too funky. Now, another thing that we could have done is we could have applied a you know, a turbulent, like a displacement map. But what I like about this mesh warp is it's very like you can adjust everything considerably, and it's a very hands-on way. If you were to apply a displacement map, it would do it. But I like the control that you have of seeing where you're dragging each and every you know, distortion within the grid here. So going through, let's deselect and take a look at it, see how it's looking. Okay, pretty cool, and it just kind of waves on there. Nice. Alrighty, so that was step 1. And I'm going to be pre-composing the junk out of this one. So let's just pre-compose it again, say wisp on. Okay, and so now it is another solid image, and it's going to go across. What I did for the jitters is I simply applied another smear and drag it right onto there. And I just took this point and that point, and as soon as it comes in, okay, just keyframe the to and the from, and let's hit U to bring up the keyframe, move forward a little bit, and then as you just kind of like drag the to, it's gonna want to suck it up towards it. So you can just do it, you know, keyframe down a little bit, move it across, keyframe down a little bit, back it up, there, keyframe a little bit there, up, down, up, you know, and just that's pretty much all I had done, was just as you know, as you see it jittering, it's just a bunch of random little keyframes. Let's go ahead and wrap it around. I think I'd done one on the top and one on the bottom, and so keyframe down a little bit. Is that going to go right through it? Yeah, it is, but that's all right. Do the same thing down here a little bit. Keyframe down more, and just continue to do that all the way through. You get the general idea. Okay, so you have all these little things getting sucked out. Okay, as we continue all the way over to this other side, if you want, you can certainly pre-compose once more. Sure, why not? We've already have like 5 pre-comps going on. Jitter. Okay, we've now jitterified it, and let's just do the same thing on the back side. And I'm actually just going to pause it and do that exact same thing because you understand the principle. Okay. Okay, excellent. So I've gone through and I've masked it, and I've applied the same mesh warp. I pre-composed it one more time and applied the same mesh warp here so that you can see what I did. It's the exact same thing as the first step. It's just in reverse. One key thing here is notice what happens. This is okay. Let me back it up and go back to layer jitter. That was the one that we had called this initial, moving from one side to the other, right? And so we had applied jitter, and what was the most recent one? Wisp on, jitter, last. Okay. Now with last, I had applied the smear to that, okay? And now smear, since it's applied to the whole comp, which means that, yes, great, it's going to be distorting my text, which is beautiful. However, it's also going to be distorting anything that I've done before this time. So all we want to do there, just to get rid of the previous stretching, is just take and let's set a keyframe for smear. Let's take the reach and set it. It's at 100 right now. Let's just page up a couple times and let's set that back down, the reach down to 100, and that will just eliminate any previous stretching. So it's coming in really nice, doing a little funky jitter just for a couple seconds. I didn't do too much, and then it's getting sucked out, and then the last one that I had done, it is getting sucked out fully. Okay, beautiful. So that does not look like what we had done in our example, and the reason for that is this was actually the extent of my tutorial until the very end. I thought, I wonder what it would look like with a little motion blur. Well, being that the way a motion blur works is if there's actually movement in the composition, it's just going to take one keyframe and kind of blur it into the next one a little bit. But with this is a simulated motion. It's not actual motion. Like, these waves aren't really going up there. It's just stretching it to make it look like that. Nothing's moving in 3D space, right? So you can simply apply force blur. Force motion blur, okay? And you can just apply that here to the very end, very last thing. And what that does is it'll just take, notice if I turn it on or turn it off, notice right in here, okay? What it does is it's going to take the last thing. Actually, you know what? I think I need to pre-compose. I did this the other day too. Pre-compose one more time just to make sure. Motion blur. Okay. Now let's apply it to the pre-compose. I think we have like 6 compositions going on here. It's pretty sweet, like all nested in each other. That's the beauty of After Effects, all right? So now that we've applied it, look at this, look at what's going on. Is you can see that it's changing it slightly. It's just taking from one frame to the next frame. It's kind of doing a little bit of a blur from one to the next. And as we apply it, we can see it's going to be a little bit slower rendering, but we can see it's going to slowly do that. This is with motion blur applied. This is without it. Just you can see a little bit extra detail being applied. Okay, well that's considering that the motion blur sample is set at 8. I was thinking, oh man, what would be really fun with the shutter angle of 180? Well, how much can we crank this up then? If this is at 8 and 180, how much does this go up? Okay, well that keeps going up, but that's not seeming to do much difference. Okay, well then let's play with this. Start cranking this up. Okay, nothing. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have it turn on. Maybe this is what I wanted. Nope, still not. Okay, so let's start messing with the shutter angle. Let's crank it up. Crank it up. You see we're seeing a little bit more here. Bring it up a little further. We're getting more detail. Bring it up a little further. We're getting more detail. How about we try the old, 99999 trick. And enter. All right, 3,600. Sweet. So what this is doing is it is taking, and this is going to be a slow render. It's taking pretty much, it's almost like it's creating this like trail. It's almost creating a tail of everywhere that it's been. So every movement, at one point the wisp was here, and at one point the wisp was here, and and right now it's probably right in the middle. So it'll take the movement in between and just create a really interesting, cool wispy looking effect in between. Now obviously, since I have the movement going considerably quickly between the 2 frames, that's not really acceptable. So at that point you can keyframe it and crank it way down. Crank it back to 150 or whatever it was at. I just said 180, but you can crank it way down during this time. But that is also what gave me the cool shutters. Is essentially what you'd want to do is just slow down any text movement that you do, because inevitably there's going to be, if there's any movement on frame, it's just going to look for, from one pixel to the next, was there movement, and let's try to blend those a little bit. And the result is actually really, really cool. So bringing this one back up to 3,600, so cool. It's not that, yeah, obviously that doesn't look that good, but when you see the final RAM preview, and that looks pretty stinking cool. That doesn't look cool. Ignore that part. But the wisp off looks real cool. I think in the example that I had given, I had slowed things down considerably, but this was just done pretty fast. But force motion blur cranked way up generates pretty cool looking results. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Now, last thing I'm going to say, and this is just really cool. If you bring up my, if you just go up here to author Adam Evermiller, you click on this, it'll bring you to my Vimeo page. And I had mentioned in the beginning of the tutorial that I am going to be getting married in like less than 2 months. And on there you can find the video of my proposal that is exclusive just for you guys. And you can see me cry a little bit. That's right, you can watch Adam Miller cry. It's a very emotional time, but I'm very much in love with this girl, and I'm excited to be getting married. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and I will chat with you guys soon. Bye.